There are 250,000 parents whose kids committed violent crimes in 2021. Only 2 of those parents are in jail. Prosecuting parents for the crimes of the school today on The 10th Man. A high school in Oxford, Michigan had a shooting and mass murder in 2021, 4 years after ABC television exposed its bullying problem. The parents of the disturbed shooter were put in jail as if they had pulled the trigger, while the school is declared immune. According to a bought investigation by Guideposts, the school met with the parents regarding their child's behavior. He was guilty of looking at pictures of bullets and drawing guns, along with other actions that in hindsight have been called disturbing many months later. After the shooting that same day, the school said the parents were to blame because they didn't tell the school that he had access to a gun, and they flatly refused to take him home. The first lie is that the parents refused to take the shooter home. The counselors decide if a student is sent home, not the parents. The parents and counselors together agreed to keep him in school and get him into therapy. And sending him home would have been the wrong decision. You're not supposed to send a troubled teen home. You're required to put him in seclusion. The kid was considered a threat to himself, so by putting him in seclusion, he cannot hurt himself or others, because there's nothing to stop a kid who's sent home from coming back with weapons. That's in the Homeland Security Protocol, distributed to all schools. All these facts of the meeting are in the Guidepost Solutions report. The correct practice was to put him in seclusion where he could be observed and be safe. The school should have, but they didn't. The flagship accusation against the parents is a Second Amendment attack. They claim the parents bought him a gun, the parents gave him free access to a gun, and the parents didn't tell the school they owned guns. Let's start with the parents bought him a gun. What the parents bought was a gun for him to use. That is not a crime. Kids are allowed to use a firearm under supervision, and there's no evidence the parents did anything else. Quite the opposite. Parents buy their kids potentially dangerous items to be used under their supervision all the time. Cars and cell phones are a prime example. The Centers for Disease Control predicted 3,000 kids dying from texting while driving in 2023. Driving and texting are illegal, and the resulting deaths comprise 2 or 3 Oxfords every day. How many parents were put in jail for not supervising their kids' phone misuse, which is far more dangerous than gun misuse? Did the parents give him free access to a gun? They testified that the gun was locked up, but obviously a determined teen can get into anything in his own house. Kids break into gun safes all the time. The killers at Sandy Hook and Uvalde both shot family members who stood in their way, so how far are you going to take this argument? The fact is, lots of kids take weapons to school, according to the National Center for Educational Statistics, which also reports many students have free access to loaded guns. Those kids don't shoot anyone and usually don't get caught. Maybe we should study that phenomenon. Nothing usually happens when kids are caught with weapons either. The city of Grand Rapids, Michigan, just across the state, imposed a ban on backpacks after 4 instances of guns being brought to school. 4 guns in school, a backpack ban, but 0 parents were jailed. Oxford schools themselves admitted in the report that guns are a normal part of life in this rural community. Suddenly something bad happens and, oh my goodness, there's guns. Guns are part of life. The problem isn't guns, it's Gen Z behavior and government hypocrisy. As far as both the shooter and his parents failed to tell the school there were guns at home, that's just false. The shooter was called to the office on November 29th for drawing gun pictures and told counselors he had just been shooting. The family met with the same counselors the very next day, focusing on his behavior, the only thing that matters. So, by the parents not saying it again, we have guns, that's what they're hanging their hat on to blame the parents? The counselors already knew the family had guns. The counselors called the meeting, the counselors controlled the meeting. It was fewer than 15 minutes start to finish. When would the parents interject again that they had guns? They weren't hiding it. Mom suggested the shooter tell the teachers about the new gun. She clearly was not withholding information. And it was Dad who called the school to say a gun was missing, though it was too late. The school's threat assessment protocol requires them to ask the parents specifically if the student has access to weapons, and 2 administrators were fired for their failure to do so. So why are the parents in jail? Because the government hates gun owners. It's too bad the counselors didn't invite the school resource officer to the meeting. A sheriff's deputy was assigned to the school, but educators don't really trust the cops until it's too late, according to the FBI's guide for officers. The deputy would have asked about guns. Just ask Sheriff Mike Bouchard, and he'll tell you. The Guidepost's investigation is an unprofessional, dramatic hit job on the parents. They say on page 5 that their goal is to blame only the kid and the parents, and that is just what they did. This amateurish essay, though long, is still incomplete. The couple might have made 2 impactful mistakes, the report doesn't say. We'll cover those at the end. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe, like, and watch the other videos in this series. Watch them here or uncensored on Rumble. The investigation in over 500 pages also never mentions the bullying problem, not even once. Yet it heaps lavish praise on the anti-bullying coordinator for directing traffic outside once the shooting started. Ironic that while she was outside avoiding the carnage herself, a judge ruled that the victims' families cannot sue the school. He says the staff are immune from prosecution because, get this, they were not the ones who pulled the trigger, and someone else's violence is beyond their control. If you're the government's man in charge, you're immune. But you can be a set of parents, a marketing manager married to a computer programmer, minding your business, who placed your child in the care of professional educators for 7 hours a day, where he then acts out under their authority. You go to jail. There were some people disciplined at the school. We'll look at that farce in a future video. The investigation was interesting, but too full of bias and drama to be complete. So here are some missing useful tips for parents buying a gun for a minor to use. The shooter changed magazines twice for a total of 3 mags used. A pistol normally comes with just 2. Keep it that way. There is little reason to buy extra magazines for a minor's gun, and might have saved some lives. Shooters tend to stop when they think they've done enough damage. The second tip is ammo type. As the problem began with the shooter looking at ammo on his phone, you'd expect them to indicate what kind of ammo was used. For parents, there's little need to buy self-defense ammo for a minor's gun. Target ammo is fine and may keep you out of trouble. Suggestions for the schools? The Homeland Security protocols. Follow those and get engaged with students so Generation Z stops killing each other. That's all there is to it. Get engaged and you'll also eliminate the far greater risk to your students, the daily dozen deaths. That's okay with the gun law obsessed. Fix the huge problem of kids in despair and you also fix school shootings. They might even have prevented this one. The Oxford shooter, like his dad. But they won't do any of that because schools can just label this more gun violence and benefit with power, money, and political office. We'll see how much they benefit in future episodes of The 10th Man.